Teysa, Orzhov Scion versus Atraxa, Praetors Voice. Xantcha, Sleeper Agent, and Yisan, the Wanderer Bard. Yeah, I think we're going to get some... Yeah, I think we've got some spiky players at the table here. Going to have to mulligan that because we've got no lands. That's not incredible, but we've got some card draw at least. Let's keep that. Teysa, Orzhov Scion, is 3 mana in Orzhov for a 2/3. We can sack 3 white creatures to exile a creature. And whenever another black creature we control dies, we get a 1/1 Flying Spirit into play. Atraxa, Praetor's Voice, is every colour except red. It's 4 mana for a 4/4. It has Flying Vigilance, Death Touch and Lifelink, and at the beginning of your end step you proliferate. And then Xantcha, Sleeper Agent, is 3 mana in Rakdos, 5/5. When it enters the battlefield, an opponent of your choice gains control of it. It attacks each combat if able, and can't attack its owner, or planeswalkers its owner controls. Then for 3 generic, its controller loses 2 life, and you draw a card. Any player can activate this ability. Yisan, the Wanderer Bard, is 3 mana for a 2/3. 3 and tap, put a verse counter on it, search your library for a creature card with CMC equal to the number of verse counters on it. Then put it onto the battlefield. Alright, another land is good. Let's get down a tap land and pass straight over. A Dark Thicket Wolf. Well, at least the Yisan player doesn't seem to be an incredibly broken version of Nissan. I say broken, I don't mean broken. It's just a very, very powerful deck, especially in 1 versus 1. Very consistent and very strong. And you can just chain a load of creatures into play. Untap Yisan, tap down Yisan and keep doing that for a load of turns in a row. And get down a load of cards straight into play. But with cards like Narnam Renegade and Dark Thicket Wolf, maybe the Yisan player isn't as much of a threat as I assumed it was going to be. A Demonic Tutor from Xantcha. And into a Mana Crypt. I'll be intrigued to see if they're actually going to cast anything with Mana Crypt. Yes, they are. They get into the Lightning Greaves, so that makes it actually worth getting the Mana Crypt down this turn. Sometimes people will play out a Mana Crypt and then not cast anything, and all you're doing there is risking it getting blown up and it lightning bolting you at the beginning of your turn. I assume that the Demonic Tutor was for the Mana Crypt. Atraxa just getting into a Savannah, making their way up to all of their colours. A D-Spark we're not going to make use of just yet. Could get rid of an Atraxa with that though. Let's go for Night's Whisper. We'll have to discard a card here, unfortunately. But we get into some swamp, so we can just discard a swamp there. Had to scoop early to a game just before this one, because by turn 6, I think it was, I'd only drawn into 2 lands, and everyone was way ahead of me. And as much as I curse people for scooping early, I only have a finite amount of time to actually play games and get recordings, especially multiplayer. They're very time consuming. And so apologise profusely to my opponents, and I apologise to you now if any of you were viewers of the channel. I don't know if they were or not, but I don't have an infinite amount of time to get games, so I do apologise for scooping early there. But 2 lands on turn 6 with no rocks is yeah, well, we're not going to come back from that, are we? Yisan has now entered play. Be intrigued to see if anyone points removal in that direction. And swinging in at us with the wolf. So that is even more damage to us. We will go down to 35. And here comes Xantcha. Now who's going to gain control of this commander? That goes straight over to Atraxa. Now it's quite early in the game, so I for one have no intention of dumping mana into that. So all they've done there is given Atraxa a 5/5 to swing in with next turn. Be intrigued to see where it's going. In fact, I know exactly where it's going. It's going to come straight in at us, isn't it? No, that's surprising. They might not have seen that the Narnam has Death Touch, but maybe it's good to get rid of the Death Toucher anyway. I don't suppose they particularly care about whether they have this thing or not. And Xantcha goes back into the graveyard, which is noteworthy. So are they going to be able to reanimate her? An Oath of Liliana will make everyone sack a creature. And at the beginning of your end step, if you control a Planeswalker, you get a 2/2 zombie. So this is likely Atraxa Super Friends. Zulaport Cutthroat goes nicely with Carrion Feeder potentially. Yeah, I think we're not really doing anything, are we? Let's just get down the swamp. See, if we get down our commander, we're not really going to do anything there either. I think we just have to hold on to D-Spark in case someone does something very, very impressive. I don't just want to run out Teysa for the sake of it. We actually need to make use of her once she comes out. Looks like Yisan is just holding up mana for that ability. They'll be able to search for a 1 CMC creature. Let's see if this Xantcha leaves the graveyard or not. An Exhume from Xantcha, so they are going to get to bring that back out of the graveyard. And out comes the Death Toucher as well, because Exhume allows everyone to reanimate a creature. And if Atraxa doesn't come down next turn, then we could, instead of the D-Spark, put our 3 mana into Xantcha and draw an additional card. We'll just see what happens here. Another coloured source, then they'll likely be able to go for it. And there is Atraxa. Now, do we actually want to get rid of Atraxa or not? Doesn't seem to be much chatting going on in the, well, in the chat. So I don't know if Atraxa's actually going to respond here. Yeah, it doesn't look like I'm going to get a response there. So let's, in that case, we'll just go for a card draw then. We get into a Corpse Knight. That's another combo piece from M20. Whenever another creature enters under our control, all the other opponents lose 1 life. Okay, another fetch land. We can go for the scrub land with that. And then we'll get down this Elenda. And hopefully she will start to see some creatures die. And Yisan is going to respond by searching out a creature with 1 CMC. They decided to go for an Arbor Elf on tap, a target forest. We'll just pass over and see if they want to do anything else with their Yisan on their turn. And wow, this Yisan player really doesn't like the look of us. I think that's a strange attack when there's an Atraxa there. You can either deal 5 damage to Atraxa or get rid of Atraxa. Yeah, that's a strange one, but they seem to be gunning for us for some reason. Multiple times I've discussed with people on various internet forums and social media comment sections, stuff like that, and it's that threat assessment seems to be distinctly lacking on Magic Online in multiplayer games. I don't know what it's like in paper, but yeah, the threat assessment levels seem to be quite lacking in Magic Online realms at least. Obnixilis the Unshackled being cast. Whenever an opponent searches their library, that player sacks a creature and loses 10 life. They're going for Yisan now, before that comes into play, because Yisan obviously wants to search libraries. All 3 of us have colours that can get rid of artifacts, so I'm just hoping that this isn't one of those games with no removal in it, because many a time I've played multiplayer games and I'm the only guy who brings removal for some reason. Oh, a Colonian Hydra. Yeah, we might be getting into board wipe territory here. And this might not be Super Friends, it might just be Atraxa good stuff. Plus counters and Planeswalkers. Atraxa not swinging in, that's curious. It does have Vigilance. That Colonian Hydra is going to be a 10/10 next turn. With Trample. Ancient Tomb. Can we do anything with an Ancient Tomb? I don't think we can. Let's go for our commander here. We're not necessarily going to really do anything with her, but if we can start setting some things up, depending on what we draw into next turn, we might actually be able to get something going. So if we get down Carrion Feeder and the Zulaport Cutthroat now, it might deter them from swinging into us if we can lose a load of creatures and drop some vampires into play with Elenda. So let's just leave it at that. And now a young wolf. So this looks like it might be a werewolf / wolf build with Yisan at the helm. Ah, the tunnel vision ends. Yeah, it's actually going in at Atraxa this time, so they're offering up the trade for Colonian Hydra or Atraxa. I don't think they're going to take that trade somehow. They can just gain back 4 life next turn if they swing in with Atraxa. Yep, they're just going to take the 5 points of commander damage. Everyone's at around the 35 mark apart from us. We're at 27. A boom pile. Tap, flip a coin. If you win, destroy all non-land permanents. Well, let's see if they go for that now. And an Underworld Dreams. Yeah, so it might be worth getting rid of the boom pile now rather than later. We might try and force the issue with a D-Spark there. Underworld Dreams will deal 1 damage to a player whenever they draw a card. Felwar Stone, just getting some more mana into play. They can add a mana of any colour except blue with that, thanks to the various colours on the board. Now let's see if this Colonian Hydra swings in or not. I think they should be going in at Xantcha, really. The Colonian Hydra gets its counters doubled when it swings in, so it jumps up to a 10-10, which is going in at Xantcha, and the Atraxa is going in at the Yisan player. So no attacks on us, thankfully. Proliferating another counter onto the Colonian Hydra. We'll put it up to an 11-11, which will be a 22-22 next turn. Now there isn't really anything that we're all that desperate to do, so we'll just drop a plains down and hold up this D-Spark. We can get some tokens into play to start exiling stuff with Teysa if this Colonian Hydra comes in at us, and we can point the D-Spark at the boom pile and try and force our opponent to activate that. So let's just pass at that. Yisan is going to look at the top 3 cards with the Duskwatch Recruiter and reveal a creature card from among them, put it into the hand. And because we didn't cast any spells, this is actually going to flip over into a werewolf, isn't it? Untapping a forest with the Arbor Elf allows them to go for it for a second time at the end of our turn. First time, they revealed a Spirit of the Hunt. And revealing nothing this time, so all they got there was a Spirit of the Hunt, flash 3/3 for 3 mana. When it enters the battlefield, each other creature you control that's a wolf or a werewolf gets +3 to its toughness until the end of the turn. That Duskwatch Recruiter does flip over because we didn't cast a spell last turn. Fade into Antiquity, and that does get rid of that Goblin Boom Pile. Let's see if they want to sacrifice it in response. That saves our D-Spark, so it's good that we're seeing someone else running some targeted removal. Okay, they managed to get rid of it, so we're going to have to rely on other means of wiping the board. I thought they would kill everything off there in response to that. Alright, the Xantcha is coming in at us again, and the 3/3 is going in at the Obnixilis, which can just block it, so maybe they have some kind of buff spell in hand. They do have 6 cards. We are just going to take that. I'd rather keep all these creatures in play. We could get a chump blocker in the way of all that, but yeah, I would rather keep all these things in play currently. We're up to 10 points of commander damage from Xantcha though. The owner of Xantcha is deciding to draw a card with Xantcha, put 3 mana into that. Its controller loses 2 life and you draw a card. They're up to 3 in hand now. And then a gamble. Well, they've only got 2 cards left in the hand. They will have 3 cards once they've gambled, and then they have to discard something at random. So let's see if we can guess whether the discarded card is what they gambled for or not. Yeah, probably didn't go after a swamp, so I think they've gotten what they were after, and this is probably what they gambled for, because they are windmill slamming it into play. Players can't draw cards at the beginning of each player's draw step. That player loses 3 life and searches their library for a card, put it into their hand and shuffle their library. Yep, so everyone is going after the card draw on Xantcha now. We can get rid of the Colonian Hydra with Teysa if we want to, so I think it's safe to put some mana into Xantcha as well. We drew into Darksteel Mutation, so that can get rid of probably Atraxa. We could put it on the Colonian Hydra, but the problem is it doesn't give Defender, as you might think. So this would just end up as a massive creature still. So Darksteel Mutation onto that wouldn't do as much good. It might be worth a Darksteel Mutation onto Marilan of the Morn Song, actually. And then protecting that, I see. Now the thing is, whenever we search our library, this is going to have us sack a creature and lose 10 life. And this thing is going to force us to search our library, isn't it? Yes, it forces us to do it, so we are going to have to use Despark on this, I think. Let's just hope Atraxa makes the right decision in swinging in this way. A couple of spells were cast last turn, so this flips back over into the Duskwatch Recruiter, which is probably the version of it that they want access to, actually. Now we'll see what the Atraxa player searches for. Like I said, they are going to lose 10 life and they're going to have to sacrifice a creature. So let's see what they sacrifice here. They probably get rid of Atraxa and swing in with a 22/22 Colonian Hydra straight at the Xantcha owner. Now let's see where it's going. They do sacrifice the Atraxa. Now let's see where it's aimed at. Okay, the Xantcha player just tapped down a couple of mana there. Where is this swinging in? Colonian Hydra. Yes, the Xantcha player is being attacked. And they tapped down a couple of mana in response. And then decided not to go for it. So let's see if they've got a trick up their sleeve here. We could actually get rid of Xantcha here if they just block with Obnixilis. Then we could get them out of the game because this has Trample. If we get rid of this in response, it will deal 22 damage straight there. I actually quite like the idea of that. Let's get rid of this Xantcha player because they have been a thorn in everyone's side. That will get 22 points of damage through to their face. Now let's see if they've got anything. They've got one card in hand. Wow, that is one chatty guy. But yeah, the Xantcha player is out of the game. And now it's just the Atraxa and the Yisan Werewolves player that we have to worry about. Ooh, doubling season. Ugh, don't like doubling season. Not when there's potential planeswalkers coming down. A Thrumming Bird is more proliferation. Now let's see what we can do here. Cabal Coffers, we've got 1, 2, 3 swamps. We can tap down Ancient Tomb and Cabal Coffers for 3 mana. Yeah, that doesn't really gain us any, does it? Let's just go for a basic swamp. And that at least makes Cabal Coffers more relevant once we get down some more swamps. Then we'll get down this Rune-Scarred Demon, I think. That will allow us to search for something when it enters. And if we want to sacrifice it in response to anything, then we can do that with the Carrion Feeder and get ourselves into a spirit. Do we want the Painter's Servant yet? I mean, if we make it through to next turn, we might actually be able to go infinite. So that might actually be... yeah, that might actually be a good thing. Or we could go for... what's the other one that does the same thing? Darkest Hour. All creatures are black. Yeah, I think that lets us go infinite now, doesn't it? Yeah, I think we have to go for Darkest Hour over Painter's Servant because we can actually play Darkest Hour. And all this means is that the spirits that Teysa creates will be black. And so whenever Teysa sees a black creature be sacrificed, she'll generate a spirit. Going after Yisan, the Wanderer Bard, as opposed to the Duskwatch Recruiter. They may be going for a Reclamation Sage there. Just out of curiosity, let me see if the Yisan is going for a Reclamation Sage. We can go for the combo at instant speed anyway, and it doesn't cost us any mana. No, they just go for a Rot Wolf. That's a wolf with Infect. So it looks like they either don't know about the combo or they don't carry around a Rex Sage. Let's just sack this Rune-Scarred Demon. When a creature dies, Zulaport will drain each opponent for 1. Teysa will give us a Spirit, which will be black, and a Lender will get a plus counter onto it. And yeah, we actually do have Infinite here. It wasn't the Painter's Servant combo that I wanted to get off, thanks to the Painter's Servant being unbanned, but this is similar to what you can do. Unfortunately, it stops everything from being white, which means you can't use Teysa's Exile ability, but you can do stuff like this. Teysa is seeing that a black creature is dying and creating a white spirit, which is made black by the Darkest Hour. So every time the black spirit dies, it will be replaced by a white spirit from Teysa. But it doesn't come out as a white spirit thanks to Darkest Hour, so we can just do this forever. If our opponents decide to respond, then we can just respond in kind with our combo at instant speed. And this is infinite, we can do this forever and it doesn't cost us any mana. And the Atraxa player sees that. We'll see if the Yisan player manages to spot it as well. Alright, well they seem to want us to play the whole thing out, so why don't we just see if they've got anything in response. In fact, actually, that's a terrible idea, isn't it? Because they might have a Krosan Grip. Didn't think of that. Well, if they've got a Krosan Grip, we've actually given them an opening now. But yeah, they've finally seen the combo. Yeah, if they had a Krosan Grip there, we actually gave them an opening to get rid of Darkest Hour, which would have taken us off the combo. But I think we might have beaten this player anyway. It seems to be more of a fun werewolf build. Again, all we were doing there, Teysa Orzhov Scion, when it sees a black creature die, it throws out a 1/1 white spirit, which comes out as a black spirit thanks to the Darkest Hour, which makes all creatures black. And then Carrion Feeder can sacrifice the spirit that comes out. Zulaport Cutthroat will drain everyone for 1. And a Lender, the Dusk Rose, will get a plus counter on it, as will Carrion Feeder. That's one of quite a few combos in Teysa Orzhov Scion, and we can do something very similar with Painter's Servant, which was unbanned recently by the Commander Rules Commission. And there we are. One of my favourite decks is this Teysa Orzhov Scion build, but I usually only play it in 1 versus 1. This is my first day playing it in multiplayer, and yeah, don't know if I'll get too many combo wins off with it because they can be quite boring sometimes, but if you're in a bind like we were throughout quite a bit of that game there, then assembling a combo is a perfect way to get out of such binds. Anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed that Teysa Orzhov Scion game. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.